No, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be, I think it'll be a bit of a shock to the system, suddenly working 40-hour weeks, because that March as well, it's
What
like...
do you do at the moment? 8?
Oh, barely. Fucking hell. I mean, that's why I've been like, let's do some podcasting, because I'm just so free.
Welcome to Drum and Drummer, a podcast focused on drums, drumming and drummers. I'm George Pickering and that's Ben Winty, and we are both professional drummers in this business we call music. So stick around and join us as we pass the time whilst trying to stay in time.
And he goes, oh, Wednesday's brown. And I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Wednesday's orange, you prick.
Yeah.
You know?
Welcome to Drum and Drummer.
Yo, what's up?
What's up? How you doing? You alright?
Good, mate. Yes.
Yeah.
Had a very busy February.
Yeah, you've had a busy weekend.
Just a busy February because this is coming out on the 23rd of February, George.
Yeah.
So
We've talked about the weekend.
I know,
already.
we talked about that in the last episode.
2 episodes ago.
Talked about that 2 episodes ago.
Let's start again.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I've been very busy, mate.
I thought you meant to start the episode again.
Nah.
We're in now.
yeah.
What have you been busy with?
Studio, mate. It's
Yeah.
been on fire, baby.
What,
Yeah.
literally? Your dream?
No, no. Unfortunately not, no. We just had a ridiculously busy month
Yeah.
with recording, which is great
Yeah.
because it's money in my pocket.
Mm.
I mean, no, I'm living a dream. But I've not really known it like this before, George.
That's good. What,
Yeah.
even pre-COVID?
I'd say so.
Wow,
Because-
that's good.
Well, the new studio that we built end of 2018, I built, Neil had nothing to do with it. No, he did.
He did the soldering, didn't
He
he?
sold it.
Yeah.
It's still working, so fair
Well,
play.
Good for him.
If you need any soldering doing,
Yeah.
Neil's your man. Mixing, come to me. Soldering, Neil.
But we only really got a year out of it before COVID came along.
Mm.
So we never really got fully into
This is our new setup and
Yeah.
our new space. And now it feels like it's been slowly building since last summer, and it's just everyone's coming in.
It's really
Nice.
good. But I've got to do all like the management. That's the thing, you see. Not just splitting the recording between me and Neil, but it's all the booking.
Yeah.
Deposits, all the forms, the liaison with clients.
Takes a lot, you know.
Does.
Like I had to do 4 hours work yesterday. Insane. No, I'm joking, of course. It was a 9-hour day, but 4 of that was intense admin. Before I even got to editing
Yeah.
a band,
Deposits being paid, bookings, phone calls.
so it's all good. All good stuff.
Need
yeah.
a receptionist. You need a Dawn.
Do,
A
yeah.
Dawn Tinsley.
Yeah, new dawn.
Yeah.
How are you, George? You start your new job very soon.
Yeah.
And you're moving in with Elfie
Well,
very
if it's
soon.
the 23rd when this comes out, then I start my new
don't
job.
break the illusion.
Swear you started it. In 5 days' time, I start my new job. Or at
How you
least
feeling?
training. Yeah, good. Excited. Just excited to do something new and have something solid. I think that's it, really. Just having something solid around music and the podcast. And I said this year, if I can just do this job, do the gigs I have and more, and work on the podcast, then that's a pretty good year for me. I kind of like to see years like that. Like, right, what's the goal for this year? You know, last year was obviously the big old Iron Man, but this year it's like just make some money and have those 3 things: the job, the gigs, and the drumming and the podcast, and
The
just
wig,
work on them.
the catchphrase,
the
the
glasses. Brilliant.
I love it. The wig,
But
the glasses, the catchphrase.
that's almost becoming like a catchphrase in itself. No, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be, I think it'll be a bit of a shock to the system, suddenly working 40-hour weeks, because that March as well, it's
What
like...
do you do at the moment? 8?
Oh, barely. Fucking hell. I mean, that's why I've been like, let's do some podcasting, because I'm just so free. But it's ridiculous.
You're like,
but,
Ben, I've got another guest. I'm like, oh, fucking hell, mate. I've got the busiest month at work ever. It's all good.
racking up the guests.
We've got some good guests coming up.
We do have some good guests coming up.
Very much looking forward to getting them, chatting to them.
Like you mentioned this before, shall we discuss the podcast? Because we talk about it to ourselves, but we never reflect about it on here.
Yeah.
Because it seems self-indulgent. But
Well, we had a little
Yeah.
what Neil would call a SITA, and I really like this phrase, a SITA, SITA, a shot in the arm, where you're just doing something, and then you get a little bit like good news or something happens good, and it just gives you that little boost
yeah.
that keeps your motivation. And we had one very recently where we found ourselves on a list of top 12 great drumming podcasts,
Yeah.
and there we were at number 12,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right
at the bottom, but we were on the list.
But we're on the list, yeah.
He might not
And
even be on the list. He's on the list, but don't.
But they listened to it, clearly, because, they said
Well,
it's a
they did say
friendly
it's a very
podcast.
friendly podcast. That's
I'd
what
say
I thought.
it's
Maybe you
friendly.
haven't listened.
Well, yeah, maybe.
One
yeah.
half is very friendly.
Which
But that's
half
quite
is
nice,
that?
isn't it? Where you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And we call that a little SITA, shot on the arm.
Yeah, and I think something I've said to you, but obviously, we never talk about this on the podcast, is friends are starting to listen, Like after like a year and a bit of doing it, mates are finally going, all right, I'll listen to it, And it's just nice. And I think the fact that we're getting these guests on, it's such a thrill. We've got someone coming up who's going to be on the show. I won't say who, but it's like I never would have got to chat to him if it wasn't for this, So it's cool. And I think, these little nuggets, it's like, because we just do this, see what happens, put it out every Thursday.
Well, the friends thing's quite interesting. And not just regards to this podcast, number 12, great drumming podcast. It's not about that. But just in context to like when you do something like this, or you're in a band, like you're doing something creative or original, that what is it about you, about kind of wanting your friends to like it? Because, it's constantly like, you when you're in a band and you're younger, you want your mates to come see you play. You want to sell tickets and fill the venue. And when you get older, people just stop doing that.
Yeah.
Your mates stop caring, which is fine. Like, it's just... And it's that interesting thing of, well, actually, we're not doing this for our mates, are we? Or you're not in a band for your mates, because your mates might not like what you do.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're not your mate.
Yeah.
But yet, we still can't help but feel disappointed if a friend doesn't embrace what you do.
Yeah.
But what are we looking for? What do you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That kind of like playing Oxygen Thief to my mum, and to her she's like, I don't like it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I put so much effort into making this album. And the drumming's good, listen to that double kick. She doesn't give a shit. But it's not for her.
Yeah.
That band isn't for old woman.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And this podcast isn't necessarily for our friends.
No.
But when they... And what you don't want to do is you don't want to badger someone.
No.
If you badger someone like, oh, you'll love it. Oh, listen to it. That's when you put people off.
Yeah.
And I guess what we're finding, what you're saying, is that we're not badgering people.
No.
Directly.
No.
But just over time, they're gone, oh, do you know what? They keep making it. I'll give it a listen.
Yeah.
It is the 12 greatest drum podcast out there. But
Not
I think
our
it's
words.
not our words, no. But it is an interesting thing, I think, of validation from your peers or from your friends. But actually, it shouldn't be about that, really.
No. Do you think also the fact that it's a double act in a way, we're like Vic and Bob, do you reckon that's helps in a way? Because if you do something that's on your own, or you're part of a band, but you can still feel like isolated from the band, then you almost have to be like, get the validation from someone else. Say if you're a singer-songwriter, you show it to other people, what do you think of this? Whereas us, it's almost like, as long as we're happy with it, then that's enough. You know what I mean? Like, I'm kind of like, if we both do an episode and we're like, oh, I'm proud of that, then I'm like, that's enough. There might be a part of that as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know what I
I
mean?
just think it's that I think it's just the dynamic
of the closeness of mates and friends.
and actually they're not, a lot of the time, they're not your audience.
Yeah.
Yet they're the ones we want to like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And that's, with anything, art, pottery, bands.
But again, like, you know, I've got a friend of mine who's got into making pottery.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
Mm.
But you kind of, not that he's done this, but it's like, oh, I feel that he wants his close network of people to like it.
Yeah.
But I'm not in the pottery game.
No.
I'm not in the eye for a little jar or something. You know what I mean, or a
Yeah.
pot.
Yeah.
But there'll be plenty of people out there who would love it.
Yeah.
And so, why? Yeah,
You know what it's like. You try and get your mates to come see you play.
Yeah.
They don't want it.
No.
And actually, you have to get to a point where that's fine.
Yeah.
And actually, if you don't,
ask people, and you don't.
eventually, it's almost like if people come organically and naturally,
Yeah.
That's the best. That's the best way, isn't it?
It is the best.
and so
way
it's just been, you know, like you said, like doing it for yourselves,
Yeah.
being happy with it.
And that's what's important. And hopefully you'll find that audience you resonate with.
Yeah.
But usually it's not the people closest to you, are
No.
the ones. But yet they're the ones you want most.
Well, this is the thing, and I talked about this.
But they
you.
know us. That's the problem
Yeah.
as
Well, sometimes they know us. They can't disconnect us
No.
or the art creator from the art. So they know, you know, certain people know us.
more. But the perception of people who listen to this,
Who don't know us personally.
Yeah.
will be very different to the people who do know us personally. And
Well, I'll say that quickly. My brother,
Like Elfie thinks I'm the funnier one.
Yeah. She
Valid.
did say that.
She doesn't
Oh,
know
no,
me.
She said funny
Yeah.
one, funnier. But
Funniest.
my brother recently listened to his first episode of this. He listened to the Mark Pusey interview, and he was like, I didn't listen to it for ages before because I talk to you. Why do I need to listen to you twice? That was his reasoning, you know, which is totally fair enough. But no, I think it's doing something that you're just proud of, and then you put it out there and then see what happens. Because I was talking to you about this before. We're talking about algorithms and stuff, and people nowadays are trying to hit these algorithms and going, what do I need to do? I think this is the thing. What do I need to do so that the audience out there responds to it and I get well known? And I remember Royal Blood. They're a good example of, you know, that band. They said that when they started Royal Blood, it almost came from a place of like, I don't care about, you know, trying to hit this target audience. You know, they said they've been in bands before. It's like, what's our audience and how do we target them and how do we go about that? And they said, let's just make songs we enjoy and see what happens. And I think a lot of the best things are sort of, you know, The Office came from that and all these different things. Like, let's just do something that we enjoy and see what happens. And I think the fact that we're doing that is better. You know, we're not going like, well, what's like the top drum topic to talk about today? You know, it's like none of that. And we're not on Instagram going like, I don't know, how do we get on Reels so that we can hit an algorithm correctly? We just sort of do the episode and put it up on Insta and say, here it is. You know, go and listen to it if you want. If you don't,
Take it or leave it. You're all leaving it, and that's fine.
yeah.
But what I think it is then is when, like, I've had a couple of mates of mine say, "Oh, I listened to this."
Yeah.
You know, one mate said, "I'm not a huge fan of the interviews. It can get a bit drummy for me." He's not a drummer,
Yeah.
but he's listening it kind of like purely organically,
Yeah.
and it's like, I'm surprised he's still listening.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Rather
Yeah.
than me going, "Oh, listen to this, listen to this, listen to
Yeah.
this." It's just, if he still wants to listen to it, great. If he doesn't, that's also fine.
Yeah.
Because he's not a drummer,
Yeah.
but he's like, obviously dips in and out,
yeah.
and it's like, well, that's great.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. That's all you can
But-
hope for. Well, that
Yeah.
probably a good segue into.
All I'm saying is, George, I've
Yeah, go
been
on.
to one of your gigs. I'm not going to any more. I've done the mate thing.
Exactly. We've both been to. We've done the joiners
We've
swap.
seen it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
That's enough. And I cried that night because I'd eaten too much meat. The other night I went to a gig and I met a drummer there, and I mentioned the podcast and I said, "Oh, I you know, I'm part of a podcast. If you're up for being on it, it's called Drum and Drummer." He went, "Oh yeah, I've heard of that." And it was the first time I've ever had that. It was almost like, it wasn't like, oh, I think I've heard of that. It was almost like, yeah, that's just a thing. Yeah, of course, you know. And that was like the biggest boost. Like I texted you instantly. I was like, you won't believe this. Someone's heard of it that I don't know. And he'll be a guest soon on the pod. But I wanted to discuss, if we're good to move on.
Sure, let's do it.
He played a gig at this place called the Folklore Rooms in Brighton, which I think is a fairly new venue, and it's a really small, intimate, 60 capacity venue, and it's all table and chairs. And he had to play like super quiet.
You sent me the link. It's a hipster's dream.
It is a hipster's dream.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll say it on here, if we ever do a Drum and Drummer live, that'll be the place, because my God, I can picture it now. There's a bar downstairs, you know, venue upstairs. Come on, everyone. Let's go and do Drum and Drummer live. Watch this space.
Come on, Anne and Sandra.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, our mums.
Come on.
He had to play really quietly, and I looked at how he had his kit set up, and he had tape.
Okay, why did he have to play quietly?
Because it was such a small room, and he
wasn't any sound restrictions.
No, it wasn't that, but I think it was the fact that he was playing for it was a female, quite singer-songwriter artist, and, you know, her songs were quite soft, and I think maybe if he played how he wanted to play, it would be too much for the room.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't feel like they have drum kits in that place. I feel like it's for like folk nights where it's just people playing fiddles.
Well, what's the venue called?
The Folklore Rooms.
There you go.
There you go. Hence the name. But I looked at his kit, and he had tape on his cymbals. He had a towel on his snare drum, and the way he was playing was so like delicate and soft. And I was just thinking it's interesting because in an episode recently we discussed cymbals which you can use to make it, you know, quieter.
The Zildjian L80 silent cymbals.
There you go. And there's various things, you know, you can use an electric kit, but
all those sticks, those quiet sticks.
But say you turn up to a venue and they go, "We got to play quietly." I mean, we've sort of discussed this, but I think it's always coming from a place of like, "Oh, fucking sound limiter," you know, and then that's been it. But I just thought it'd be interesting to talk through all the different ways you can do that. You know, you get to a venue, it's a tiny venue, you have your big drum kit, and they go, "Right, you need to deaden that and quieten that." What would you do?
Wouldn't do the gig. No,
Don't do the gig. Yeah, sack it off.
Well, there's a difference. I think there might be differences to define here, which is playing quiet because the music needs you to play quiet.
Yep.
The music dictates you should play gentle. And then there's playing quieter because just normal volume is just too loud for the environment you're in, which is probably that's the case at this.
Yeah. Well, let's say it's an echoey room. You know, maybe it's that case. Maybe you play the snare and it just, you know, the noise rings out forever.
I don't think there's a huge amount you can do about that.
No. Wow. Towel. So this was...
But the problem is, it's that sound is going to reverberate off the heart of the big room anyway.
Yeah.
You can bring the volume down, sure, but you can't deaden the echo of the room because that's the room making the echo.
Yeah.
And the reverb.
Rather than the kit itself.
So you can try and curtail
the sound that's being projected by deadening it. But I guess with a gig like that in that sort of small intimate venue, playing full volume, it's just too loud.
Yeah.
Not for any sound restrictions or decibel meter, but just too loud for the room. For people sat close by, it's a small space. So I guess it's like one thing I definitely learnt doing Victoriana, where it's a bit more country folky.
Yeah.
Like you're playing Jolene.
Yeah.
Like you can't play the beat at the same velocity and aggression as you'd play Mr. Brightside.
No.
The song doesn't need it.
No.
And I found that actually when I co-started that band, that was a real weakness in my playing.
Yeah.
Because I only just done ska punk bands, metal bands, and nothing else in between.
Yeah.
So then it was like, oh, I need to get better at playing quieter. And not like ridiculous, but just because what I found is like when you're absolutely tanking it on the crash cymbal, twatting the snare, it's a very different technique to gently, where you're with you know, when you're absolutely rim shotting the motherfucking shit out of that snare. Like, it's full arm, baby.
Yeah.
Wrist is gone. This is like full arm, almost like body.
Yeah.
Like shoulders going in.
Shoulders in it.
Yeah. Any teachers listening, sorry, my technique's awful, but you're just absolutely slamming down on that bad boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally moving your hips.
Yeah.
Twibbling your hips.
Bang.
Just to get that in.
Smash. 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 I just watched that documentary.
Did you watch it? Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on it? On him? Because I think he was too quick to just go violent on certain people, because he's done that in the past. You know, he'll be like, oh, I saw this guy assaulting this girl, so I went up to him and I just shanked him with a hammer or something, and everyone's like, yeah, good for you, but also, is that maybe too much? You know what I mean?
Short fuse.
Yeah.
Probably a short fuse. Tough life. Nutter. There you go.
Yeah, I think the thing that they didn't say is they didn't dwell on the mum too much, and they should have. You know, there was all this stuff about she kept him in the locked up, and then she was like, "Nah, I didn't," and then they just moved it on. But then his mates
it's tricky,
were like,
because I think what she was saying, like, for my own sanity, I had to just keep him in his room because he was an absolute cunt.
Yeah,
and you're like, having heard from stories from teacher friends, they're out there. Little 7-year-olds, absolute shits.
Yeah, but what if he wasn't?
But
what if it made
she could
him that
also
way?
been like, also, parents are shit.
Yeah.
So
what if she was locking him up and then it made him that way? You know,
chicken egg, innit?
Yeah, this is it.
Chicken egg.
Anyway, so you're twatting the snare drum.
Yeah, but
Should
then
we
when
say
you play,
like? But that was a Netflix documentary about Kai, the internet guy. I just feel like people listening
the
are like,
hatchet
what's
hijack,
the
hitchhiking hatchet
man
guy. Yeah, interesting. For me, it lost it when he got the face tattoo.
Yeah.
You've ruined that there.
Yeah.
Kai. Anyway, yeah, absolutely going of it on the snare. But then when you got to play, you can't do the snare like that.
No, you can't.
Jolene.
No.
It doesn't, because it just doesn't work. So it's like you're going back to more, I don't know, proper technique.
Yeah.
In inverted commas, whatever that is.
Lol.
Yeah.
And you're a bit more wrist, you're a bit more finger.
Yeah.
And there's a very different way of playing for speed when you're doing those two kind of different playing styles.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm shit at doing the quiet one.
Yeah.
But just doing so many gigs of Victoriano, I was actually, when doing the gigs, thinking like, okay, I'm not using all power, Chateau Can.
Because you're all power.
Absolutely. It's what I'm known for.
Yeah. And not
Basically.
just drumming.
No.
You know. All walks of life.
Emailing. All power.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All in caps.
Yeah, so I had to just consciously go, I've just got to make sure I'm not losing anything by playing quiet, like keep things in time, keep hitting,
Kick and hi-hat are coming down at the same time, like I'm not flamming.
and that's something I just got better at doing, that sort of band.
Yeah.
I hate it,
Yeah.
not gonna lie, but I have to do it in the studio as well. Like,
Not every track is a big loud rock song.
No.
You got to play delicately.
in terms of like physical things you can do to the kit,
I mean, yeah,
wallet on the snare.
Have you ever
T-tile on the
put?
snare.
Well, have you ever done anything with your cymbals? Because I've done it before. Put tape on the cymbals.
I've only once taped a cymbal,
and that was just
actually an Oxygen Thief gig, where the sound engineer was like, "There's just a really shit frequency from that cymbal."
Yeah.
So a bit of tape on it just did that. I didn't believe it. It was a really good cymbal, but whatever.
Yeah.
I've never taped cymbals. No.
No, it's weird. I had to do it once, and you sort of lose that when you hit it, rather than it ringing out. Obviously, it just sort of deadens it, and it's so. Say you get to the end of a set and you're doing a little cymbal, you just don't get anything back from it. And I think there is almost like a limit of you can. I remember. So my experience of all this, of quietening the kit, I'm going to have to talk about the old Mallorca contract, because we were playing in hotels and I was just too loud, because sometimes you're playing indoors. It was
drums
rare,
are loud.
Drums are loud.
I'm sick of saying it, George.
This is it. And I remember it was almost like a self-conscious thing, because you can almost hide behind playing loudly, you know. And I remember we had this set that started off quite soft, in the same way you have Jolene to Mr. Brightside. I remember it started off with, let's say, Valerie, but like later on there'd be like I Love Rock and Roll and stuff. I remember the first time I played it quietly after being told you have to play quietly now. I did Valerie and I was like, well, this is okay, but as soon as we get to I Love Rock and Roll, it won't be as good. But it was, because it was kind of like, if you bring down the volume of everything, then it's still fine. Do you know what I mean? It was like, it wasn't like I carried on playing the kick and snare loud, but the hi-hat was quiet. It was just like everything was quieter, and it's still a drum sound. And my favourite example of it was, I remember seeing Stevie Wonder playing at some Obama thing at the White House, and the drummer's playing so quietly, but the drums sound massive, because it's like the way he played, it was all, you know, it didn't matter that he wasn't playing really loudly. It still all worked together, and then you mic it well and it sounded brilliant. But yeah, it's an interesting thing, because it's like, I think as a drummer you can kind of hide behind the noise, or, you know, sort of use that as a thing, and you go, well, I won't be as good if I have to play quietly. But
I liken it to, you know, with weddings a lot, there's sound limiters and sound restrictions, and particularly with a band like Freshman Year, where it's pop punk,
yeah,
like the drums in those records are loud, like they're hit really hard. It's fast, it's loud, it's big. And one thing I liken it to is being like, all right, here's a Ferrari for the day, but
You can only go 30 mile an hour.
yeah,
well, yeah, it's a Ferrari,
yeah,
but it's not why you get a Ferrari, is it?
Yeah,
to
yeah.
go 30 mile an hour.
yeah,
You want to go fast on a track. I'm not talking, you know, if you're
Yeah.
driving on the roads, speed limits, please. But like, you know, and I think there's an element as well. I think you can put towels and tape your cymbals and stuff, but I mean, you're cutting out frequencies, and maybe you're deadening it, but in the end of the day, like, you're really then changing the tone
yeah.
of a kit.
And I'll say, not just that, but it's when you have to play quietly, you learn so much. I remember, because going back to Mallorca, something else I was going to say is when I taped...
Mallorca!
I know.
When you go back, yeah?
This is... I'd love to. Be hotter, wouldn't it?
We're going to do a season. Drum and
Do you
Drummer
know what?
Live.
Do you know what? If Drum and
Mallorca.
Drummer, like, if we actually made any money from this, it'd be just... I'd go back. We could just live out there. We could just live in Spain. It's all online. As long as we get good internet connection at our villa, you know, it'll be great. So, yeah, going back to the cymbals, I used to tape them to make them quieter, and the bassist was like, why don't you just play quietly? He was like, this is a good way to get better at playing cymbals quieter. And I was like, oh, yeah, it's a good point. And I think point being is, you know, if you put towels on it or tape things or whatever, it's fine, but the way you're playing is still the same. Whereas if you have to literally go, right, I have to move my limbs less and play.
Yeah, I think it's a very
good
different.
lesson.
Yeah, I think it's a very different technique to playing.
Yeah,
And one that, if you're not accustomed to, takes a bit of time to get used to. Like,
yeah,
how you work up that speed and that technique, how you physically get around the kit without tanking it,
yeah,
is a very different skill set. Something I've got better at because I've had to from Victoriana and studio session drumming.
yeah,
but I'd still say it's probably a bit of a weakness.
yeah,
But it's just, it's a difference of, it depends what you're playing and where you're playing it. And if it's because of the style of music, great. If it's because there's literally a sound restriction, it's not so fun.
no,
Because it depends what sort of music you're doing. Like,
yeah,
you know, if you're doing pop punk or metal,
and you've got to play quietly, forget it.
yeah,
Rubbish.
yeah.
You know?
And it's funny, innit? On the flip side, there are certain drummers that I've known who just don't play loudly, and it seems weird.
Yeah.
There was a guy at BIM who was in my class, and I remember the lecturers would be like, just give that snare a bit more of a whack, could you? And he just didn't, you know? And it was like he just played so soft. And
well, I've definitely recorded drummers where I'm like,
can you hit it harder?
yeah,
because there is a point where, and this is because the song needs it to be hit harder,
yeah,
you're not getting the full sound of the kit.
no.
Like, they were designed to be hit.
Mm.
And you hit a snare drum quietly and thwack it with a good rim shot. It's a huge difference in
Oh, it
sound.
is. Yeah.
And like, it's like for this song, we need the fucking beef.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, cymbals need to be hit hard so you get that full explosion of sound and sustain. If you hit a crash quietly, it can sound pretty rubbish.
Yeah. This is it.
You know?
I think maybe it's just because it's the way we are. It's probably better to be a heavy hitter and then have to play quietly than a quiet drummer who then is told to play. Because I feel like that's somehow more of a jump. Do you know what I mean? To like learn then how to play louder.
Like if you can
know what I mean?
control a Ferrari at 70 plus, 70 tops,
Exactly.
it's easier to then go back to 30
Exactly.
than if you've only ever driven at 30 and go,
Crank it up.
Yeah. We're going to Silverstone. Let's see if we can do 120 in this. You know?
120 mph, yeah. Not BPM.
No.
But yeah, and that's the thing where you got these quiet sticks and cymbals. Like,
Yeah.
it's a common problem with venues and licensing, but also just people being able to practice at home, you know, in flats or terrace housing and things like that. That, you know, it will forever be a problem because drums are loud.
Yeah.
And I would really be interested. I'm really interested to see about these cymbals.
Yeah.
These quiet ones, because I think if you can hit it with the same venom
Yeah.
you would normally, and it is just quieter, but it still sounds good.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be a huge game changer for
It could.
sound
I mean,
limit gigs. Where it's
even-
like I can do a sound limit gig,
Yeah.
and because actually cymbals are just so bright and brash.
Yeah.
That's usually what people like. Oh, and if you, it's you know, the drums can still sound good. Hit if you just have to reduce your attack on drums by 30%, but then you can still hit the cymbals, and it's just quieter. Maybe that's the way to go. But
it might be the way to go, because even just having more of a feel of a cymbal as well. Like my electric kit, even if I could, I never want to whack it like I'd whack an acoustic kit. Do you know what I mean? Because the cymbals are also, because it's all more enclosed somehow. But it just feels weird. It's like, what's the point in really whacking? Whereas if you have a cymbal that feels like a cymbal, you might be more inclined to be like, yeah, let's whack it, let's go for it. But yeah, it's an interesting topic. I think it comes down to, like, you know, technique as well. Is all these things an excuse not just to learn how to play quieter, you know? Or is it really something that's needed in some cases? But yeah. Right, what else? Anything else before we wrap up?
I feel like there was something.
You've
there
sort
was
of gone.
something.
You sort of, did you zone out then? I felt
No,
like
I'm just thinking.
you were
I've
trying
got
to think of something.
I've got bands turning up soon.
Yeah.
But I know, I was just thinking, like, I swear there was something else I wanted to mention, but maybe we have covered it all.
Maybe we have.
Maybe we have.
Vegas?
Maybe we've covered it all. I'll tell you what, I've had a love, right? This has satisfied me greatly. I think this is a big change. Just quickly. I've switched calendar software. There you go. Said it.
Really?
Yep.
Wow, to what?
Google Calendar. I'm all Google now.
What am I using? I think that's what I use.
So I was using the one that comes with your iPhone, the Apple Calendar.
Really?
The iCal. Yeah.
Oh.
But we've switched booking software at the studio recently,
and this has a Google Calendar integration.
Yeah.
and we had all our gigs, and when we can't do gigs, it's all on a shared Google Calendar. I've now got them all in one place.
Yeah, yeah.
If a booking comes in the studio, it automatically goes into my calendar with
In
who
the
it is
kindest
and what
way.
room.
Yeah. I'm surprised a man like you, who loves admin more than anyone, or at least is good at it more than anyone, wasn't already Google Calendar. Do you color coordinate shit now?
Oh yeah,
It's brilliant.
No, it's always been color coordinated.
Oh right.
Here's the thing, and I can see
please.
why you're misjudging me on this.
I am. Maybe.
The admin was tip top.
Yeah.
It was just split over 2 devices.
Right.
Now, because the new studio booking software has the Google Calendar integration, any bookings that get made go automatically into Google Calendar.
Got ya.
So I've combined the two. So now I've just got everything in one place, where that didn't happen before.
Right.
So I didn't have a need. I was just always using the iCal.
Yeah.
And that was admined up to the nines.
Colours, labels, everything.
that was a system that worked.
But then there's other systems like, well, I can combine the two. So now, like, if a band books in, it goes straight in my calendar. I can see who it is, when it is, and what room
That's
they're
nice.
in. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's all colour-coded. So now I've got everything
Yeah.
bosh. So, big day. That was a
It
big
is a
day.
big day. I love colour coding shit. It's nice. And I get different feelings about different colours. Because
Mhm.
orange is gigs. So I'm like, ooh, orange
Ah.
day. I'm doing a gig. But then
Oh.
some things, you know, say if it's a job I don't like and it'll be green, I'm like, oh, fucking Green Day, is it? You know, not Green Day, but
No,
you
not
know.
Green Day.
Well, do you have... So I have everything colour-coded. Like
Yeah.
all my tracks in Pro Tools, drums are pink, bass is blue, guitars are
Yeah.
yellow, vocals are red. Neil's an absolute madman with his green vocals.
Well, we've all seen his email folder.
Now, and then I have each band is colour coordinated in my diary, or this pod, Freshman
Yeah.
Year, Victoria, all colour coordinated. They all match up with the spreadsheets. But do you have colour recognition for just other things in your life? For example,
Go on.
like I just have a colour assigned for days of the week, months of the year. Do you have that?
What, like in your head?
Yeah.
Kind of. But not as much as perhaps you do. My brother has this thing. It sounds similar, where each number up to at least 100, he has a colour for it. I remember we found this out about him when he was quite young, like say 5 or 6. And we found it. I don't know how we found out, but we were like, okay, Tom, what's 64? He'd be like, oh, it's brown. And we wrote them all down. We were like, surely he's just making these up.
You got 2 browns there, Tom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which one
Tom,
is it?
they're all brown. What
Yeah.
are you doing? But no, so maybe it's kind of like that. But no, I do have sort of the ways I look at a week is sort of, I don't know. But no, I don't have the colour thing. Is that what you have?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask me a month. I'll tell you what colour it is.
November.
Purple.
Yeah. I have it with years. That is good. Yeah. I'll ask you that again in a few weeks. And if it's the same, then it will prove it's
Yeah,
true.
it'd be the same.
I have it with years. Different years seem different, like, feelings to me. So, like, 2014 felt like quite sharp.
The 90s is brown.
Yeah. Okay.
80s is yellow. 70s is grey. 60s is red. 50s is orange. 40s is blue. Like, I've got it for decades as well.
Yeah.
Days of the week. Monday's white. Tuesday's green. Wednesday's orange.
Thursday's blue. Friday's brown. Saturday's black. Sunday's yellow.
Good.
May, purple. Cheers. December, white.
May's
obviously.
purple as well. How many are purple? Because that's 2 purples.
Well, no, it's a different shade of purple.
Right.
May's a richer purple. November's a sort of paler.
That makes sense.
Paler purple.
And like June and July are both green, but July's dark green. And April's are like a light green.
Yeah.
February's orange. January's a very dark green.
Yeah.
Yeah, August sort of browny.
Yeah.
September silvery. October.
There's a very light blue. November purple. December white.
Cheers.
Yeah.
That's-
You know?
That's interesting. Yeah.
But then I think it might have even been Neil. He has a similar thing. And he goes, oh, Wednesday's brown. And I'm like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Wednesday's orange, you prick.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, and it blows
People's minds. Anyway.
fucking boring, wasn't it?
No, that was interesting. It is interesting.
But I've
People's
also
things.
been adminning up, sorting out, getting my spreadsheets in order.
Yep.
You know.
Why?
Love it,
You
love
going
it.
away somewhere or something?
No, just, just just combining a few sheets. Because just basically the studio's really busy, and so I've got to keep on top of all this stuff.
Yeah.
And gigs are coming in. You know,
Yeah, this is
gig
it.
season's not that far away.
Soon we'll have actual
And
things
actually,
to talk
our
about.
first gig is a decade gig. Sound limiter, electric kit.
Yep.
Bosh.
On a
Straight-
Tuesday as well.
Straight in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be weird.
Be fun.
Ugh.
Right.
Guess so.
Well,
I'll
at
do it.
least we'll have things to talk about when that starts.
At some point, yeah.
Because what was that? Fucking colours.
I don't know, but, you know, we talked about quiet drums,
No, we did, yeah. We talked about
you know.
us. We talked about us.
Us,
We talked about
yeah.
us for 15 minutes.
That's fine.
Yeah. No, it is good. We never discuss us. We talk about it a lot when we're off air. Oh.
Yeah. Ooh. Right. I think I've got to go.
Yeah, I need a
Band's
wee.
here.
Perfect. Twitter, Instagram, email, get in touch. I hope you've enjoyed our recent interviews. We got plenty more coming up over the next few weeks.
We do.
I'm off to Vegas. See you later. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Drum and Drummer. You can find us on Instagram at Drum and Drummer Podcast. And you can send us an email to drumanddrummerpod@gmail.com. Remember, Just pick up the sticks and twat it.